This is from Al Jazeera. Israeli forces step up attacks across Lebanon after limited ground raids. Israel says it killed a commander of the Imam Hussein division in Beirut as Iran launches missiles at Israel.
The Israeli army says it has killed the commander of the Imam Hussein division, referring to a Hezbollah-linked group based in Syria, in a strike in Beirut as it stepped up attacks across Lebanon. Israel also said on Tuesday that its forces killed Hezbollah commander Mohammed Jafar Qasser, describing him as being responsible for weapons transferred from Iran and its affiliates to the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. The announcements came as Iran fired a salvo of ballistic missiles at Israel on Tuesday, and what it said was a retaliation for the assassinations of Hezbollah, Hamas, and Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps officials. Israel promised a painful response, saying that more than 180 missiles were launched into Israel from Iran, and Israeli air defenses were activated to intercept them. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said Iran had launched tens of missiles at Israel, and that if Israel retaliated, Tehran's response would be more crushing and ruinous. Tehran targeted 3 Israeli military bases in its attack, Iran's state news agency said. At least they attacked military objectives.
Instead of just trying to get rid of,
civilians and the things they need. It comes a day after Israel said it sent ground troops into southern Lebanon in what it described as a limited operation against Hezbollah targets. While Hezbollah denied that Israeli troops had entered Lebanon, the Israeli army announced it had also carried out dozens of ground raids into southern Lebanon going back nearly a year. Israeli forces have continued to launch attacks on towns and villages across the border, as well as on the densely populated southern Beirut suburbs. In an attack on Tuesday evening, Israeli air raids struck 2 areas in Beirut neighborhood, hitting a building in Dinar near Zahar Hospital and a building near the Kuwaiti embassy, Lebanon's national news agency said. Israel also warned Lebanese people to evacuate border towns as it conducted its ground operation. Almost 200...
Palestine. Okay. So like they did to Gaza.
Yeah. Almost 240,000 people, mostly Syrians, have crossed to Syria since Israel began pounding the country last week, Lebanese authorities said. Iran had promised to retaliate following Israeli strikes that have killed many of the top leaders of its ally Hezbollah in Lebanon, including the group's leader Hassan Nasrallah. Hamas, the Palestinian group in Gaza, praised the Iranian missile strikes, saying they avenged the Israeli assassinations of 3 leaders, including Nasrallah. In Washington, President Joe Biden said the United States was prepared to help Israel defend itself from Iranian missile attacks. Writing on X about a meeting held with Vice President Kamala Harris and the White House National Security Team earlier in the day, Biden said, "We discussed how the United States is prepared to help Israel defend against these attacks and protect American personnel in the region." United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres condemned what he called escalation after escalation, saying, "This must stop. We absolutely need a ceasefire." A ground campaign into Lebanon for the first time in 18 years, pitting Israeli soldiers against Hezbollah, would be a major regional escalation. Near the city of Sidon, along with the Mediterranean south of Beirut, mortars wept over coffins containing black-shrouded bodies of people killed in the Israeli strikes. The building got struck down, and I couldn't protect my daughter or anyone else. Thank God my son and I got out, but I lost my daughter and wife. I lost my home. I have become homeless. What do you want me to say? My whole life changed in a second, said Resident Abdulhamid Ramadan. Hezbollah fighters responded to Israeli attacks by firing a barrage of rockets into Israel on Tuesday. There was no immediate word on casualties. Hezbollah has been reeling from weeks of targeted strikes that killed its leadership. Israeli strikes have killed more than 1,000 people in Lebanon over the past 2 weeks, nearly a quarter of them women and children, according to the country's Ministry of Public Health. Anticipating more rocket attacks from Hezbollah, the Israeli army announced new restrictions on public gatherings and closed beaches in northern and central Israel. The military also said it was calling up thousands more reserve soldiers to serve on the northern border. Earlier on Tuesday, an Israeli military official said Hezbollah had launched rockets at central Israel, setting off air raid sirens and wounding a man. Hezbollah said it fired salvos of a new kind of medium-range missile at the headquarters of 2 Israeli intelligence agencies near Tel Aviv. The Israeli military official said Hezbollah had also launched projectiles at Israeli areas near the border targeting soldiers. Haaretz columnist Gideon Levy said Israel, in its 2 major wars it fought previously inside Lebanon, always started in a very limited way, very limited scale. "I'm very afraid that it will repeat itself now, and that the situation in Gaza will happen in Lebanon," Levy told Al Jazeera. He said Israel is motivated by its recent military successes, such as the assassination of Nasrallah and the explosions of pagers and walkie-talkies in Lebanon. "The world is totally passive, so Israel feels that it can go on," Levy warned. "I think nothing is going to stop Israel from going on, and this will cost the lives of many people."
Horrible.
It's like, okay, so Israel escalates to de-escalate, and then Iran comes in and shoots the missiles, and that's not escalation to de-escalate. That's always just a heavy escalation in all cases.
It's Iran has sat there over and over and over and said, leave the Palestinian people alone. Do not invade Lebanon. Do not send ground troops into Lebanon. Do not touch Rafah. Let the Palestinians go. Do not touch Gaza. We will do something. They've been trying and trying and trying. We've been warning and warning and warning and warning. And Israel, as they said, with no repercussions, is just going full craze and balls to the wall and just trying to get rid of everyone around them.
I don't think Israel's getting the message.
That's because the U.S. is still sitting back there guaranteeing that they're going to help them. That's why they're not getting the message. If the U.S. stepped in and told him, hey, you better fucking stop, I bet he'd fucking stop.
Well, no one listens to Biden. He's going to forget what he said in 5 minutes anyway. So.
Then Kamala, as vice president, should be the voice that he's not able to be at that moment.
Yeah.
And that voice has stated, we will continue to supply weapons and aid and abet in a genocide. And if Iran attacks Israel for Israel's ethnic cleansing of the area, then we will step in and help Israel continue to ethnic cleanse the area.
Fucking sucks.
Israel does not have a right to be a state. They just don't.
If you look at the history, that's what it would suggest, yeah.
I understand wanting to have like a homeland and knowing where you come from. I do get that. But understand that regardless of that, your homeland's still not Israel. It wasn't established enough to say that your ancestors did anything. It would be your grandparents.
There's always been a Palestine.
For centuries.
Since like the BC, like 500 to 2500 BC, there's been some form of Palestine.
Palestine.
The Israelis just, in 1948, they killed 800,000 Palestinians to create their little enclave. So.
And we have supported them. And it's just
about $300 billion in counting.
There is a Al Jazeera documentary out that's about an hour and a half that goes into depth regarding all of this and the war crimes that have been reviewed by specialists showing that Israel has been committing war crimes is available. So definitely go check out Al Jazeera. It is on YouTube. It's about an hour, 20 minutes.
Is Israel doing war crimes? I don't know. Just look at any print media that is worth a damn.
Yeah.
That you can see plenty of their war crimes being reported on. All you gotta do is use Google. It's not that hard.
Mainstream media, understand, is also controlled by AIPAC lobbyists. So just keep in mind who is giving you your news, who is supporting your presidential candidates.
This is from Monda Weiss. Biden-Harris rally around Israel after Lebanon attacks. The Biden administration is rallying around Israel's assassination of Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah. As an elected official in Michigan warns Democrats that Kamala Harris is underwater in state polls.
U.S. officials have expressed concerns about a widening war in the Middle East. But these anxieties didn't stop members of the Biden-Harris administration from rallying around Israel after Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah was assassinated. Hassan Nasrallah and the terrorist group he led, Hezbollah, were responsible for killing hundreds of Americans over a 4-decade reign of terror, read President Biden's statement. His death from an Israeli airstrike is a measure of justice for his many victims, including thousands of Americans, Israelis, and Lebanese civilians. The same could technically be said about any U.S. president that has led any kind of anything, because that's what they do too. So, and also a 4-decade period is a lot better than killing millions of people in less than a year. The United States fully supports Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and any other Iranian-supported terrorist groups, it continued. Just yesterday, I directed my Secretary of Defense to further enhance the defense posture of U.S. military forces in the Middle East region to deter aggression and reduce the risk of broader regional war. You should have told them to stop Israel from... They're the ones that are doing it. You guys are so stupid. This is stupid. Why are you trying to drag us into another war? We all see it. We see you. We see what you're doing.
You're going to put Harrison in the fucking presidency, really?
We are going to be at war in 2025. Just understand that. That is what they are saying. They are going to drag us into a war because they have a rogue state that they won't pull the leash on. So now your son, your daughter, your children, your mom, your dad, your parent, your aunt, your cousin, what happens when they all get drafted? What happens when they all have to go fight this war that Israel has started? Haven't we learned that attempting to wipe out a terrorist organization like ISIS, per se, Doesn't really work like this, does it? You create terrorists by doing this, by taking a child, or for example, the story we read, you have a husband and a son that survived the killing of their daughter, their sister, their mother, their wife. What are they left with now? You just took everything from them. Do you think that that makes them complacent? Do you think that that's going to make them be like, okay, yeah, cool. I want them to like be over me as a government. That's great. They're doing great. Or do you think they're going to want to rebel, fight against you? You murdered their people. These people that would have never even crossed their mind to fight against you now have no reason to live and no reason not to fight you. You create it. Israel is the problem.
And that's why Israel used to fund Hamas for all the years.
And that's why Israel has been pushing for us to go to war with Iran since how long?
70s, 80s, I don't know.
So he's been pushing for it. This has been a long game. Just do a little research. Forget what all the mainstream media posts say. Just do an actual little research and look into how long he's been playing this game. He's been playing U.S. presidents and U.S. officials so that he can attempt to get rid of Iran and expand the greater Israel area, which doesn't even belong there in the first place. It's Palestine. It's never been Israel. Your book's wrong. Find a different place. And don't eradicate and commit genocide to try to find a homeland. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris, she's not really a nominee because nobody nominated her.
Nancy did, but people didn't.
Well, I don't think that people ever really get that choice. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris put out a similar statement. Hassan Nasrallah was a terrorist with American blood on his hands. Across decades, his leadership of Hezbollah destabilized the Middle East and led to the killing of countless innocent people in Lebanon, Israel, Syria, and around the world. Today, Hezbollah's victims have a measure of justice, said the vice president. And I want to just ask, who decided that the Middle East was being destabilized? Did they decide that? Did Lebanon ask for help with Hezbollah? Did Iran ask for help with Hezbollah? Did Gaza and Palestinian people ask for help from Hamas? Probably, because they were being murdered over and over for 70 years. And yeah, I get that Hassan Nasrallah had American blood on his hands. I'm not saying anything he's done was the greatest. But you're condemning the death of somebody and making it clear where you stand and who you support against these, as you call, terrorist groups. Well, maybe they're actually freedom fighters.
It depends on the perspective, but yeah.
I think any peoples who has a history of any type of enslavement understands that that enslaved group of people will eventually and rightfully attempt to fight against their oppressors. It is what happens. You can't just leave a pot of boiling water on the stove and walk away and think it's going to be fine. It's going to boil over.
Especially when you're throwing salt in it constantly.
You think you belong there, and that justifies genocide.
And they're not the first people to use the Bible as the reason to come up.
Yeah, but we're in an age where people are smarter than just biblical rhetoric.
I think you give some people the benefit of the doubt. I think most people are just fucking stupid. Otherwise, that we just know the shit, you know?
I'm from the South. I know people are stupid, or they're just not interested in it because it doesn't directly affect them until their family gets called out for the drafter to go overseas. Then they'll care.
Well, they're evangelical preachers all like, Israel, we must support it. We must support Israel.
For what? The end of times? You guys want the end of time? Do you want the end of times? Do you hear yourself? You want the end of times? A bunch of old white guys,
yeah, they do.
Are we not all just trying to survive? So why are we killing each other to do that? Because some old white guy said so?
It's good for the defense contractors.
Great. So capitalists makes more money while our people, American people, starve on American soil, die in a hurricane in North Carolina because they won't even send enough money for aid there, but they'll send enough money to aid Israel continuing in a genocide.
Every time the treasury gets just a little bit of money, they send it off to Israel. It's fucking crazy.
It shows that American lives really are lesser to them. Understand that. American lives are lesser. America picks Israel lives over American lives.
They just had that American journalist or whatever die over there.
Mm-hmm.
Shot her in the head. She was like 50 meters from the fence. They just shot her in the head.
But
and then they claimed they didn't.
She had a knife.
So? What's she going to do with a knife from 50 meters away? Even if she did have a knife, you don't shoot somebody over that. It's obvious. But they do it. They do it every fucking year. Mm-hmm. They just shoot protesters. They shoot Palestinians. They snipe the shit out of them. They don't fucking care. IDF don't give a fuck, like I said. Sorry.
I don't fucking care. That's what they are. IDF. I don't
fucking care. Yeah.
Or they give the okay for ambulances to come in and rescue a 6-year-old girl just to wait till the ambulance shows up and they can bomb it as well.
And
with American bombs.
And then machine down a 6-year-old girl whose family's dead already in the fucking vehicle.
Because she had, what, a 500-pound bomb in her back pocket? Because what radicalizes people is watching their entire family being slaughtered in front of them. That's what radicalizes people. You don't make people decide not to be in a terrorist group by this. You know, that's not how you do those things.
The entire world's telling them that. They don't get fucked.
I have an unwavering commitment to the security of Israel. I will always support Israel's right to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups, such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis.
Do any of those people have the right to defend themselves? Because it seems like Israel can just do anything they want with impunity and, like, fucking assassinate someone literally in Tehran, in Iran's capital, and expect them to not do anything.
I am EU's Margaret Zaknoen-de-Roos on Twitter. Like Biden, not a word from the VP, the candidate of joy and freedom, about the thousands plus Lebanese men, women, and children Israel obliterated. Not a word about the hundreds of thousands of Lebanese displaced, entire city blocks destroyed. We don't exist as human beings to this administration. According to reporting from Aaron Bonko and Nal Tusi at Politico, senior Biden officials privately told Israel that the U.S. would support the attacks on Lebanon. Disgusting. From Politico, presidential advisor Amos Hochstein and Brett McGurk, the White House coordinator for the Middle East, told top Israeli officials in recent weeks that the U.S. agreed with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the imposter's board strategy to shift Israel's military focus to the north against Hezbollah in order to convince the group to engage in diplomatic talks to end the conflict. Escalation through de-escalation. Seems like Iran has only said one thing: stop.
Yeah, stop the shit.
Stop committing genocide. Not everyone in the administration was on board with Israel's shift. Despite support inside the White House, the officials said the decision to focus on Hezbollah sparked division with the U.S. government, drawing opposition from people inside the Pentagon, State Department, and intelligence community who believed Israel's move against the Iran-backed militia could drag American forces into yet another Middle East conflict. I'm just going to read that a little bit clearer here. The intelligence community, the State Department, and the Pentagon believe Israel's move against the Iran-backed militia could drag American forces into yet another Middle East conflict. Now understand, not if Iran attacks Israel. If Israel continues their invasion and they get the attention of Iran on what they are doing, then America will be dragged into this with them. Dropsite News' Jeremy Scahill on Twitter: if you're an American neocon watching Biden and Harris facilitating Israel's wars, which the neocons have wanted forever, then Harris is a solid candidate to support. Let's stop with this neocons just support Harris because they want to save democracy from Trump nonsense. GOP nominee Donald Trump didn't immediately release a statement on the killing, but in a lengthy tweet, his son-in-law and former White House advisor Jared Kushner rejects calls for a ceasefire and said Israel must be allowed to finish the job in Lebanon. Anyone who has been calling for a ceasefire in the north is wrong. There's no going back for Israel. They cannot afford now to not finish the job and completely dismantle the arsenal that has been aimed at them. They will never get another chance, tweeted Kushner, who has been referred to as a Trump whisperer. I hope they never get another chance. And yeah, if they don't finish the job, you're right, because Israel will fall the moment they stop. Israel has killed more than 1,000 Lebanese people in less than 2 weeks, and 1 million have already been displaced. Representative Elisa Slotkin warned donors that Kamala Harris was underwater in an internal state poll. Slotkin made the comments during a virtual fundraiser with Senator Cory Booker. Steph Knight first reported the story to Axios. I'm not feeling my best right now about where we are on Kamala Harris in a place like Michigan, said Slotkin. We have her underwater in our polling. Vote Jill Stein. The poll Slotkin saw is not the first survey to suggest Democrats face an uphill battle in the important swing state. During the Democrats' primaries, more than 100,000 Michigan residents voted uncommitted in an effort to send Biden a message, in order to send Biden-Harris administration a message over its Gaza policy. The substitution of Harris hasn't seemed to boost confidence among the state's large Arab American population. A survey released by the Council on American-Islamic Relations last month found Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein leading Harris in Michigan. Go Jill! 538 currently has Harris leading Trump by 1.9 points in Michigan. A recent New York Times Siena College poll had Harris leading the state by a point. It's hard to believe the recent Israeli attacks on Lebanon has improved Harris's approval ratings. President Biden and Vice President Harris aren't just ignoring Arab, Muslim, and anti-war voters in Michigan, they're pushing them away. Uncommitted National Movement co-founder Abbas Alawan told Reuters, "Every hour I get messages from my family in Lebanon asking when the American-funded bombs will stop." Current Affairs editor Nathan J. Robinson, "If Harris loses because of Michigan, it will be entirely self-inflicted,
Yes.
like Humphrey in '68. She's refusing to distance herself from the Democratic president's war, thereby alienating young people who are revolted by constant pictures of dead babies. Make them stop. Make Israel stop colonizing the Middle East. Stop supporting it. It shouldn't be happening."